are the New York Knicks. I'm back in the New York groove. Well, it's the Knicks. New York. We are the New York Knicks. New York. For this new season we're about to enter, the Knicks is taking no shorts, just like winter. New York, New York.
New York be about the Knicks, huh?
But the best thing about New York City is
K-N-I-C-K-S.
Everybody say go New York, go New York, go!
Go New York, go New York, go!
Hey everybody, welcome to the New York Knicks podcast, episode 306. We missed a week, so we got a lot to catch up on.
306?
606.
Okay.
606, yeah.
We're going back in time. I don't know if I want to go back. Are we going to go back maybe like episode negative 612? We're in the 90s again.
Yeah, let's not do that, because the team was really bad then.
The 90s.
I was thinking of the 90s of the episodes.
Oh, the team was really bad in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our current Knicks team could play. A lot of people are like, can this Knicks team beat the 12-13 Knicks team that won 54 games?
Yeah.
And maybe they could, maybe they could not. And I think we've talked about this on a recent episode.
I think last episode, yeah.
We're going to repeat everything we said last episode, Jay.
We take 1 week off. We completely wiped out our knowledge of the entire podcast.
Yeah, I apologize for anyone that cares that we were off, but we were, to our loyal listeners, I had some stuff going on and I could not make it work. Then Jay was, I told Jay, do a show without me. And Jay said, screw you. And we're back here. But I was going to say, like, and I don't want to necessarily go comparing. We don't have to go through a whole comparison. But I do think this Knicks team, and this is a rational exuberance, but this Knicks team would do kind of well. I don't think they'd necessarily beat them, but they'd put up quite a fight against any of the 90s Knicks teams. Am I being insane?
Wow, that's a lot.
I am being insane. I know I'm being insane. Also, this team's not even on pace. This team will not even win 50 games, or has to win. They have to go like 9-0 to win 50 games. What are we at?
They have to go 9-1.
No, they lost last night.
8-1.
8-1. Sorry, 8-1 to win. It's a tough task. They may not win 50 games. And first of all, I think they are better than the 54 win team. But forgetting that, I don't know. Does this team stack up so poorly against the 90s teams?
No, I mean, with how the game has changed, like, you know, it's definitely debatable. I mean, it's not like the 90s Knicks teams had like a really deep bench.
Right. I was trying to think about like what those teams had. It's also just, you're right. The game is it's called so differently in terms of what's a foul, what's not a foul, what defense they're allowed to do. I imagine Patrick Ewing would
crush.
Do you think Mitch would do? Patrick Ewing would destroy this team.
Yeah, Ewing would average like 45 points a game.
I don't know 45, but he would average definitely in the 30s easily.
I mean, he averaged in the 30s back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Could Mitch do anything against Patrick Ewing?
Maybe a little in the post, but Ewing also had an awesome mid range, and then you're pulling Mitch out and leaving the paint open.
Pretty sure also if Ewing played now or with these kind of rules, he would have adopted the 3-point shoot. He could have been as good a 3-point shooter as Brook Lopez at the very least.
Maybe. Anyway, let's talk about the current games.
What, Jay? I want to go now. We're going to compare against the 70s teams. Actually, going back to something I think we should, before we get into the actual team now, we should note that Willis Reed passed away today.
Yeah, that was very sad. I actually watched the clip today of him fighting the entire Lakers team, which is one of my favorite basketball clips of all time. He wins, by the way. He fights the entire Lakers team and wins.
He's pretty awesome. We're not old enough to have watched him played, but he's one of the all-time greatest, top 5 greatest Knicks players of all time, easily, right?
Yeah.
He played center for them and power forward. He was a little bit undersized at like 6'10". I kind of did a quick look through his Wikipedia page. But the guy basically. So first of all, he was the first pick of the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what draft pick overall he was?
He was probably like 12th.
Eighth.
Well,
I thought there were 8 teams back then, so I don't even understand how that works. But he was the first. Maybe maybe a team lost their first round pick. I'm not sure, but he was the first pick of the second round, or like basically 8th overall, which is
that's crazy.
He averaged 20 points a game for multiple seasons at a time when you had like some bigger centers like Wilt and Kareem. Willis Reed was really good. He got a ton of rebounds. He was tough as nails. Beat the crap out of the whole Lakers team. Helped lead the Knicks to titles. The only 2 titles they've had in 1970 and 73, including being injured for Game 7 and coming out of the locker room and doing a what do you call when you appear in a movie and you're just then you leave the movie? When you have a star, a cameo. He basically did a cameo in Game 7 of some of the finals, and it was a pretty cool cameo, and helped inspire the Knicks to win the title.
Yep.
And he also was an executive with the New Jersey Nets when they made the finals in 2001 and 2003.
Cool.
So he did a lot of great things, and then just that crappy stuff with the Nets.
Yeah.
But anything else you want to say about Willis Reed, Jay?
No, I think you did it nicely.
What would Mitch do to stop Willis Reed? You think he'd do a good job? Let's compare Willis Reed. But anyway, he was a hell of a Knick, and top 5 all time. And it's sad to he died at age 80, so he lived a long life, but still sad anytime someone passes. Jay, are you going to get Willis Reed's face tattooed on your face?
I already did. You can't tell.
Oh, okay. So anyone on YouTube can see Willis Reed's face actually tattooed on Jay's face.
That's what you get for not joining the live chat.
Exactly. So what else is going on, Jay?
So the Knicks are 12-4 since the Hart trade. They just had a heartbreaking loss. Randall scored 57 points. There's an alternate universe where 1 or 2 plays go the Knicks' way, and he simultaneously breaks Melo's scoring record and the Knicks franchise 3-point record because he hit 8 threes. But that did not happen. The last 2-minute report said there was 3 instances of the Knicks getting screwed, which makes you just feel so much better. It's like they got the loss, but they're like, oh, our bad. So we're even, right?
I'm not sure if I understand the whole point of the 2-minute report. Like, do the refs get that and be like, oh, man, I screwed this up. Can't believe it. Shucks. Rob
said, would you say it's a heartbreaking loss?
That is a pretty good pun intended. I don't understand the point of the 2-minute report, really, but
it was garbage that the Knicks got screwed so much in the last 2 minutes, but they also gave up 140 points to the Timberwolves without Ant and Towns. So
yeah, I have to say also, I mean, forget the refs screwed the Knicks. Somehow faked, or like God spoke and was like, God was like, hey, Torian Prince is going to go 8 for 3 tonight because I am God and I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah, that was really strange. The guy averages 6 or 8 points a game, and he gets 35 on 13 shots or something. It was insane.
The T-Wolves could not goddamn it. So before that, the Knicks played a great game against the Nuggets. Nuggets are arguably the best team in the NBA, top 2, whatever. Knicks had a great victory against them, and they're probably a little bit, I guess, quote unquote, high on their supply, kind of coming off that victory. Seeing Minnesota without Anthony Edwards, they probably didn't take the game as seriously as they should have.
Yeah.
But people are ripping them for not playing great defense, and you could rip them for not playing great defense. I mean, you allowed 140 points. The defense could have been all that great, but Minnesota was just hitting shot after shot after shot. I think it was till midway in the first quarter before they even missed a shot. It was absurd.
Yeah, it was an insane shooting performance.
The Knicks, this is how crazy the game is. The Knicks shot 14 for 28 from 3 and lost the game. I'm going to do no research, but I bet the Knicks have never shot that well from 3 and lost a game in the history of the franchise.
It was pretty wild. So, sometimes that's just the way it goes. The other team hits a bunch of shots. In a 7-game series, the Knicks would crush the Timberwolves. They got unrealistically hot, and they were just on that night, and it happens sometimes. And I'm not gonna
I can't take your reasonable take. You're being completely reasonable about this. Clearly, the answer is to fire Tibbs.
Sorry. I'll be Skip. Are the Knicks even going to make the playoffs?
Should the Knicks rebuild after losing to the T-Wolves?
Did they make a mistake not blowing it up at the trade deadline?
Stephen A. be like, if they'd only traded for Donovan Mitchell, this loss to the T-Wolves would have never happened. We have to just get rid of the franchise.
The unmitigated gall.
I can't do a Stephen A. But yeah, I mean, people are they're like, oh my God, Randall was terrible. He blew the game last night. Scored 57 points. Shut the hell up.
Yeah. So we move on. Miami's next. Miami is another very winnable game. Very important they have the tiebreaker over Miami if they win this.
Yeah. I mean, so what's more important right now? I guess really if you had to say two things are you want to rest your team, make sure reduce Randall's minutes, reduce Brunson's minutes, make sure they're ready for the playoffs, or get the 5 seed. What's more important?
So you're under the assumption that the Knicks can go into the play-in, or just they might fall to 6?
They're not going to fall into the play-in. I don't think looking at it would be the Knicks really have to screw up to fall into the play-in at this point.
Okay, no, I'm just seeing where your hypothetical's going. That's all.
Well, I'm just saying. So right now the Knicks are up by 3 games. I guess in theory they could fall, but they're up on 3 games on Miami. Miami has the 7th seed. I feel like it's pretty unlikely the Knicks just blow the rest of their games and fall out of that. I think the Knicks will be top 6. Do you feel comfortable saying that?
Yeah, I mean, there's only 9 games left, and the schedule isn't that hard.
No, I know that at some point everyone was going on about how the Knicks had such a tough schedule. Knicks played through a lot of that tough schedule and won a bunch of games. Knicks' schedule going forward isn't too bad at all. Even the Knicks go 500 or I guess 5-4. They have a very good chance of being a top 16 team.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how important it is that they stay at you're talking your matchups really right now. I guess Philly could always jump Boston, but is it more important that you play Cleveland first round or more important that you play Philly and Boston? What's the better matchup here?
The better matchup is, I mean, I think you want to get in that 5th seed and play Cleveland. Yeah.
So the question really is, the Knicks have 1 or 2 options. You go all out for the next 9 games to get that 5th seed and risk Randall and Brunson being a little worn out for the playoffs. Are you worried about burning them out?
I'd argue you could do both because there's a lot of instances where Randall and Brunson seem a little gassed at the end of the game. So you can go all in for the win, but maybe just 2 or 3 minutes here, play the bench a little bit longer in certain stints, and you're still going for the win, but maybe they're a little less gassed at the end of the game.
I'm sorry. Either you go for the win or you're not Tibbs. I don't think Tibbs goes for the win. I know what you're saying. Well, why don't we leave Obi for a few more minutes? Why don't we play McBride for a few minutes? It's tough to see Tibbs being let's let our foot off the gas now.
I don't even think that's letting your foot off the gas. I think that's just a reasonable, because they're not sitting players like other teams are. So I think just playing a few less minutes is reasonable. I mean, I'm doing fantasy right now, and it's an absolute nightmare. Every team is sitting players randomly for no reason. It's impossible to do right now. I was playing yesterday. I'm I guess Vassell and Kuzma are just not going to play today because the teams don't feel like it. Well, that's great.
I mean, is Vassell resting up for the Spurs off season?
They're really guys, we won a game last week. We really got a tank now. Let's sit Vassell.
I don't understand. When I look at the Knicks box score, or watch them play, every night it's the same guys. Every once in a while there's an injury, but everyone comes to play. Mm-hmm. When I look at the box scores of other teams, because I mainly watch the Knicks, I don't watch all the other teams, guys are missing all the time.
Yeah. You look at other box scores and you're I haven't heard of half of these players, and I thought I knew most of the rosters in the NBA. They're playing like G Leaguers and like 10-day contract guys and like.
But like even major guys, like you're talking about Vassell or like and I don't know how many guys, what injuries are happening. I'm not following it closely. Is Tyrese Halliburton injured for some extended period of time?
Yeah,
Why is
he's actually hurt.
Okay, he's hurt. I find generally though, like it seems like every like teams rest guys too often.
Yeah. Andrew just said, thanks to NBA Crazy Stats, the week before the Wolves played the Knicks, Torian Prince had shot 29.6% and 15.4% from behind the arc.
Well, in fairness, the team that drafted Ricky Rubio should have a Ricky Rubio night against the Knicks.
True.
Last year, I saw for those that don't remember the Ricky Rubio game, I went to the game where the Knicks played Cleveland, and Ricky Rubio, who was known not to be able to shoot a three, hit like 8 or 9 threes against us also. Like he could not miss from three.
Yeah.
Sometimes guys are, I assume Torian Prince made a deal with the devil, and who knows what he gave for that deal, but like you sell your soul for a night in Madison Square Garden.
Hope it was worth it.
Do you know what's the second most amount of threes Torian Prince has hit a game?
4.
It's actually 7. He did that twice.
Oh, okay.
I took a quick look. He's hit 7 twice, not in a few years. I mean, he used like at some point he was considered a real prospect. He hit 6 last year in a game. He's hit 6 a bunch of times. He's not a terrible 3-point shooter. It's just like you get hot, you get hot.
Yeah.
Do you think like the Knicks were just like, wow, the Knicks just aren't guarding the 3-point line tonight, or were they just doing a really good job of hitting threes?
A little of each. There was a few he hit where I was like, he was actually covered, or he was running off a screen. When you're running off a screen, you take a 3. It's like that's a hard shot.
Yeah, what was I going to say? The T-Wolves shot 58% from 3, which is just insane. I don't know. The Knicks get a lot of open threes also. Every game, guys shoot mostly open threes. They did a pretty good job. I don't think the Knicks defense was quite. I mean, it was slow at times, and obviously you score 140 points. I don't think it was as bad as everyone says, or I don't think it was as bad as I think great shot making just beat out on OKD.
I mean, it wasn't up to their normal standard.
I mean, yes,
defense. It was. I think you're right. I think they got a little cocky after beating the Nuggets, and they didn't take Minnesota seriously. And the NBA is different than it used to be. Like random guys can, because everyone shoots threes now, and everyone can shoot threes. Random guys can go off for 20 points, and leads aren't what they used to be.
No.
I never feel safe with a 20-point lead anymore. Like it used to be if the Knicks were up or down 20 points, you could go to bed. And now it's like, you go take a shower and you come out and it's like tie scored. You're like, what the hell happened?
So it's weird. So the Denver game, which was an awesome win, the Knicks were up most of the first half, and then Denver comes back, they take the lead, and you're just like in your mind, you're like, okay, now the better team kind of took over. We did our best, and we're just screwed basically. And like Denver will just keep building their lead up, and there's nothing we can do from here. The Knicks fought really hard, took the lead back, and won the game. It was awesome. But here, T-Wolves were up. The Knicks fought all the way back, and you're like, once the Knicks took the lead, you're like, we got this. And then Minnesota just like punched back, and we lost the game. It's frustrating.
Not the best. Not my favorite game of the season.
Was the Denver game one of your favorites though? If you want to go back to the Denver game,
it was. That was really nice. I mean, they made Jokic turn the ball over so often. It was it was pretty. Awesome.
Was really solid defense. I mean, Jokic got his season averages as far as numbers, but he turned the ball over a bunch. He was not as effective as you make him 80% of what he is, and the Nuggets are really like hurting.
Yeah.
That game also RJ was really good. RJ's been playing a lot better. The Tibbs had I guess they asked Tibbs about what RJ's been doing or what's been going on. He just said basically, I'm very much paraphrasing, I've been telling him just to go to the basket. Go to the basket. Stop ducking, stop trying to do floaters. Get to the basket. And when he goes to the basket, he looks pretty good.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of moves around. Like, it's not just like him going to the basket. Like, sometimes he goes to the bat. Like there's one play last night where he went to the basket where clearly, like there was no place to go, and he like turned the ball over. But generally speaking, like he has a great footwork around the net, around the rim, and he's been great at like getting around people, and like it's been very effective lately.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of RJ lately?
He was really good for like 3 or 4 straight games. He was driving a lot more. I definitely noticed that. He didn't do that. I think I'm Steph. I'm going to take 8 threes a game. And when he drives, he's really effective. He was scoring like it seemed like at will against Denver. I felt like he regressed again against Minnesota.
He didn't have the best game, but he didn't have
Yeah.
a terrible game either.
Not terrible. It wasn't that good. But yeah, overall, like the last couple weeks, it's been much better, and that's the difference with this team. You know, when he plays good, they usually win. So like, you know, to talk about X factor for the playoffs, like they need RJ to play like he did the last few games.
I mean, I feel like the Knicks play the T-Wolves again tonight, and they decide not to cover Torian Prince, he would not go 8 for 8 from 3. Like, it just, chances are, if you play against the playoffs against the team and they just can hit all their shots, it is what it is. For the most part, teams are not going to hit every one of their shots. And the Knicks are going to, I think the Knicks will be a tough opponent against anyone in the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, would you say RJ is the key or the X factor for the playoffs?
Absolutely.
Are you tired? I'm a little tired of people being like, well, I know Randall's doing this now, but he's terrible in the playoffs. Oh, you saw what he did against Atlanta. He's garbage when it comes to play. Let's just get rid of him now. Are people making too big of a deal about his performance in the playoffs like 2 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, if he drops the ball again, then you could say it, but his entire career based off of one playoff series is kind of crazy to me.
He also had no help in that series.
Especially a playoff series where they switch point guards in game 2.
Yeah. Like you had no point guard. Derrick Rose, kind of near the end of his productive run, Derrick Rose was your second best player. RJ was not going to be that helpful. Like you had so little help out there.
Yeah.
This team has, I mean, I know this team I feel like has so much, the weapons are just so many more weapons on the team.
So many more. I mean, it's a completely different team. So, I don't think it's fair to do that.
So speaking of weapons on this team, so Chris Herring, the great NBA writer, came out with a piece today for I think Sports Illustrated, talking about who he thinks should win the Sixth Man of the Year. Can you predict who his 2 finalists were? Or can you guess who his 2 finalists were?
Jordan Clarkson and IQ.
Well, I wouldn't have brought this up if IQ wasn't one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
It would be kind of ridiculous if I did. Malcolm Brogdon was his other one.
Okay.
He actually didn't mention Clarkson as his, like, he had like a thing of like favorites or people have favorites close to it. He made also a point that like in years past, it used to be about like, can you score a bunch of points off the bench and play no defense? You're a lock for this award. But he made a point that like, hey, like voters are going to factor more in defense. Also, you got like IQ gives you both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Sixth Man of the Year award used to just be a guy who just jacks up a ton of shots and doesn't do much else. Like so many Sixth Man of the Years did that.
I think a high J.R. Smith takes offense to that.
Yeah, so he won off of like 6 good weeks.
He was good. I mean, it wasn't bad that year. It was pretty good.
It was all right.
IQ was, I mean, the argument with IQ is like his actual defense is actually stronger than his argument for his offense.
Yeah.
I mean, his offense has been really good also, but he's been a really, really good defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
And all the stats support him, like the Knicks defense being really good when he's on the floor.
Yep.
Jay, I can't believe you voted for Malcolm Brogdon though. It's messed up, Jay. So I just thought this was kind of funny. I saw a list on Fansided of 9 players the New York Knicks gave up on too soon. Do you think this will be a good list?
Can I try and name them? Is it from the last like 20 years? Because I'm not going
See
to get
if-
it if there was like a guy from like 1975.
Let me see if anyone's like everyone's in the last 20 years. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Channing Frye,
Yes, he's on there.
Trevor Ariza,
Yes.
Matt Barnes.
There's actually a couple guys who are not from older. There's two guys who are older,
Okay.
but Matt Barnes is not on there. I think the older Dolph Shays is on there, which
Yeah, okay.
you're not gonna
Thank you
get.
for filling
Yeah.
that one in.
And one from the 80s, Rod Strickland, which like, you could have. I don't think you would have guessed though.
Right. Zach Randolph.
Not on there. Should be on there, right?
He made like what 4 All-Star teams after he left the Knicks. Like,
I'm not saying this is the best list. I just thought it was funny.
okay. Shumpert.
I don't think Shumpert was that great. I
I
mean,
don't-
Randolph is on the list. Never mind.
Randolph-
Randolph is number 1 on the list.
Okay.
Yeah, Randolph was on the list, but Shumpert's not on the list. No, Shumpert had like one good year for Cleveland.
Andrew's saying Jeremy Lin and Landry Fields. I don't think either of those will be on there.
Jeremy Lin's on the list.
Well, he did nothing after he left the Knicks.
Whatever. He's on the list.
Jeez. Okay.
Again, not the greatest list ever.
Jamal Crawford.
Crawford is not on the list, oddly.
Okay. All right. Go. What's the rest of the list?
Okay. On the list is Tim Hardaway Jr.
I'm gonna say disagree with that.
Okay. Robin Lopez.
I agree. I always liked Robin Lopez. I really thought, like, they spent like the next 4 years looking for a Robin Lopez.
Yeah, and then I like Robin Lopez. No knock on him, but like, did it really matter that we gave up on him?
I mean, they needed a defensive center presence, and they had none for like years after that.
Yeah, but they weren't winning a lot of games. Like, it wasn't like a huge. You said Ariza, Channing Frye. I thought you'd get Frye.
Wasn't that the
Not that
first
he was
guy? Wasn't that the first guy I said?
You did say Frye? Never
That
mind.
was literally
Fine.
the first guy I said.
Fine, whatever. Gallinari.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, fair. I mean, he was a part of the Melo trade, so it was I guess that's it, really.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, some good ones, some bad ones on that list.
Yeah. The Jeremy Lin was a little bit of kind of funny.
Yeah. I'd put Matt Barnes in there instead.
And I saw a fan site. It also had 3 moves for the offseason the Knicks should definitely be doing, basically, already be working on.
David Lee, you could put it on there too.
What are 3 moves that that fan site will predict that the Knicks should do, or Daily Knicks? The Knicks should definitely do this offseason.
Not trade their draft pick.
Not on there, actually.
Every list I make on the Knicks of what they should do is going to start with "Don't trade your draft pick." Make a trade for an all-star.
No, I mean, I'll give you them. They're pretty obvious ones. Extend Josh Hart and Emmanuel quickly. Seems kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Shop Obi Toppin and potentially RJ. The second part's probably the more controversial, but I guess that'd be in search for an all-star, I imagine. And then trade M. Fournier, which also kind of is part of the cap filler for the all-star, I guess.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to get an all-star, you're trading those 3 plus draft picks.
Yeah. Yeah, I really thought last night that Julius Randle was going to. I was like, is he going to top Melo tonight?
I really thought he was going to.
He was so. It really, especially when I thought for a second the Knicks were gonna. Well, I knew at this point, like when he hit 57, I was like, will he hit a 3 to get to 60 to tie the game and take it to overtime? That would have been pretty cool. You want some questions?
Yes, I should mention we do have a voicemail number now. So if you want to leave us a voicemail, we can play it on the show. 516-584-4112. If you want to join the live room, youtube.com/TITOWAJ. And we're also live on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/crumpledbacon, crumple with a P. And we also have a Discord. The links are on all our social media. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is NY Knicks Podcast. Also, we have a Patreon. It's you could join there. When we switch hosts at one point, we lost the first 200 episodes, and I am uploading those to the Patreon, so you can get those there.
You know what people's voicemail message, Jay? We record a voicemail message for people so they can have it. Like when people call them, they could hear you.
Yeah, we could do that. Andrew wants to know what your OnlyFans is, Mark.
Oh, my OnlyFans is OnlyFans / diehard Mets and Knicks fan naked.
It's a good thing you threw the naked in there. People wouldn't have known what you were doing there.
Okay. Yeah, whatever writes, I guess on Twitter, will Randall fail in the playoffs?
I don't think he will. We said that before. He didn't have a point guard. He had almost no help. I think it's a completely different situation this time. And I think it'll be a different result.
I mean, I think at worst case, he's mediocre. He will not be bad. And he'll have at least 1 or 2 good games.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, last night's game was the first game that I saw on Twitter where people were like, people wanted Randall to play more minutes. Like they were frustrated. Like they were like, people were frustrated that Randall didn't start the fourth quarter and they put Obi in instead. Randall was completely gassed at that point. You had to rest him a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was the first game where they were like, these 11 minutes from Obi are too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever also writes, has Tibbs burned him out?
No. He's in ridiculously good shape.
Would you argue that or did you believe the argument that as much as you don't want to run guys down for the playoffs, having guys play intense games leading up to the playoffs is probably good to get them in playoff mode?
I mean, Randall even said that. He said when he takes off, he feels like he's out of rhythm and he doesn't like doing it.
Good point.
Which makes me wonder, because a lot of these players are like, "Oh, it isn't me; it's the team." But like, did the Knicks just not believe in that, or are those players full of shit? I don't know.
So I know they had that whole thing where Paul George was interviewed by what's his name? Who interviewed him? Josh. Who interviewed him? When they talked about this.
JJ Redick?
JJ Redick, yes. And he said, it's not us. It's the team resting us. I know they have no reason to lie, but do you think it's just the team or do you think the players are asking to be rested?
I think it's a little of each. I think there's some players who are coming off of injuries and the team is like, we don't want you to get re-injured.
Makes sense.
I think there's some that are just like, yeah, I got a headache today. Maybe I'll just take the day off. Yeah, I think it depends.
I think there's a little bit of not tonight, honey. Got a headache.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever also writes, why is the Knicks defense so inconsistent for the past 3 years?
The roster.
I don't know. It's not that inconsistent in the sense of like, it's been ranked pretty high the last 3 years. It's been a top 10 defense. The Knicks might be 11th this year or 12th, but the Knicks have been like, I've had one of the better defenses in the NBA the last 3 years.
They're ranked I think they moved into the top 10 this year.
Okay.
They've been good. It's just they have off nights. I think it comes with a young team.
I also feel like the scoring has gone up so much in the game that like, I know the Knicks gave up 140, but like pick your next really great team in the NBA. And they've also given up 140 tonight. Every team gives up crazy numbers these days, every once in a while. Yeah.
I don't really like it, but I guess enough people like it that they're not changing anything. So,
last night's game? I mean, like, obviously you want the Knicks to win, but forgetting the fact the Knicks lost, like a 140 to 137, or what was the final score? 140 to 134. That shootout, or a 95 to 92 game. What do you like better?
I like the 90s. Games in the 90s.
I did like that. I have to say, it's so frustrating how little defense you're allowed to play. How do you adjust this? Are you typing to someone, Jay?
Yeah, the chat room. You'd have to roll back.
You don't type. You just answer them on the show. We have a show.
There's a flow to the show, though. I can't just go. We're ranked 17th in We're ranked 17th in defensive rating.
The Knicks are ranked 17th in defensive rating?
I thought it was 7th, but
I guess they've fallen a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising. So,
it's also a top 5 offensive rating team, which is it's crazy to me.
Yeah, I feel like those numbers should be flipped, but anyway.
Yeah.
You'd have to roll back some of the ways they call the way they call the fouls and stuff. That's the only way you're going to change this, because, you have instances where you could just literally, I mean, even I think it was Brunson did it last game. Yeah, it was Brunson. He jumped at like a 45-degree angle into a player and got the foul call. And I'm like, I'm glad it was the Knicks that benefited, but like I don't like those kind of calls at all. And it makes it so hard to play defense that these types of games are going to happen, because you have players that are kind of backing off for fear of that happening.
Would you reinstitute the hand check?
Yeah, I would roll everything back to the way it was in the 90s.
I really I wonder if you went back to 90s, maybe a little, maybe let Met defense be not quite as aggressive, but like with all the 3-point shooting, the numbers just be up anyway.
Yeah. I feel like nobody likes those calls, like whether like the rip through fouls and the jumping at people. Like, I don't know anybody who enjoys that, so I don't know why they even have it.
The thing that drives me crazy as of late, beyond like those kind of things, is when like a offensive player will be driving, they'll lower their shoulder into a player, and they get the foul because the other guy was also moving. But if you initiate the contact, you should get the foul.
The Giannis?
Yes, the Giannis. There's a clip on Twitter where Giannis just runs over a guy, lowers his shoulder, runs over the guy, and they call a blocking foul. It's insane.
Yeah. The actual official NBA ref Twitter commented on that and doubled down and said it was a blocking foul.
Oh my God. Yeah, whatever.
They're really silent about last night's game, though.
What is the best day to fire Tibbs? A Friday or a Tuesday? Yeah, whatever's not been a fan of Tibbs.
There is some very dedicated Tibbs haters out there, like just really passionately hateful of him.
A lot of people like to rip Tibbs for his rotations. So I asked on Twitter, is Tibbs wrong about his rotations, or are you just wrong? And I think most people are just wrong. I mean,
I'm sure that went
well.
Yeah,
he's getting results. It's one thing to criticize a coach when he's like losing games. If he's winning games and doing a pretty good job, maybe you're wrong.
I feel like people forgot about Hornacek and Fisher and Fizdale. Like, I feel like people forgot about that already. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also like, I get that, like, maybe, and I'm not saying Tibbs is the greatest coach ever, but like, I get you have some critiques. Every coach you're going to have critiques about. You have to play pretty hard. Everything else works out. Do you think it's an issue that so the Knicks are somehow like the fifth highest, or I have to double check, but the Knicks are like maybe the fifth rated offense in the NBA.
Yeah, and
but they're like 20
fifth offensive rating, eighth net rating.
Okay, but the Knicks are also like 25th in field goal percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's like they get like offensive rebounds and so forth, but is that something that's really going to hurt them in the playoffs? It's just their poor shooting.
I mean, if you have Randall, Hart, and Mitch all rebounding like they've been rebounding. Even Brunson's been a pretty good rebounder. Like, you get so many second chances. I don't think it really affects.
I feel like the Knicks need to improve their shooting for next season. But yeah,
I mean, some knockdown 3-point shooters would be
helpful.
Would be really nice. But we've been saying that since we started the podcast like 14 years ago.
Anthony writes, regardless of last night's loss, the Knicks once again find themselves in every single game. Our defense let us down last night. My question is simple. Is this team a legit top 7 team going into the playoffs? P.S. Shout out to Julius Randle.
So Andrew said Mike Miller was a good coach. That is true. But yeah, that's a good point. Like, even when the Knicks lose lately, like, when was the last time they got blown out? Probably the game you went to, right? The Dallas game. Like,
yeah,
it's been a long time.
They were in it for the first half. They're actually up for a little while, and then just got leveled in the second half, and then turned their season around. I mean, I guess the game we went to against the Wizards, the Knicks played a poor game, but like, generally speaking, they're in every game.
Yeah, they've been. Yeah, their losses have been heartbreaking, but I mean, they've been really close.
So go. What were you gonna say?
Jamie said, what could the NBA do to make it fairer so it's not always the same teams in the finals? Because that's the only way the Knicks could win one.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been the. Are we clear who's going to the finals this year?
No. I mean, I got to think Phoenix is now the favorite because they got Durant.
I don't know. I mean, Durant's not going to be back till close to the playoffs. Like, the team has to develop chemistry, and obviously, maybe it's easy to develop chemistry with an all-time great player, but like.
But anyway, I mean, you're going to have probably Milwaukee and Boston in the conference finals, and so either way, that's two out of the two teams that made the last two finals.
Yeah, I know you're fair. I mean, I guess it's not the same thing. Like 4 straight years of like Cleveland versus Golden State, or like the same Miami. Like it seemed like for a while you had the exact same teams in it every year. There's a little more variation. Like Philly could make the finals this year. It would be crazy.
I still think they should just flatten the draft completely. So
flatten
what?
It for all 30 teams, or all the teams that just didn't make the playoffs?
All the teams that didn't make the playoffs. Like, so what? Like their fear is that like an okay team, like the 11th worst team, wins the lottery. So what? Why are you rewarding these shit teams for like?
I mean, you're already giving the 11th team a shot because you have ping pong balls. You're just waiting it.
Yeah, but that shot is like almost
very
0%.
minimal. Yes. Well, in fairness, when Dallas just misses the playoffs, and they have like they're the 14th seed, they'll win the lottery just so the Knicks don't get their pick.
I mean, the odds of, if you flatten it out, everybody only has slightly over 7% chance of winning anyway. It's not like this is this huge chance to win the lottery. But
it would completely end tanking.
Yeah. And like, so what if an okay team gets the number one pick? Like, why these teams that are sitting players all season, like from game one, they're tanking like the Spurs did this season. Like, why are you rewarding that? Or like, a guy who's bad at his job and he just put together a terrible roster. Now you're going to reward him with like an all-time great player potentially. Like, why?
Detroit's been pretty bad for a couple of years now. They had got Cade a couple of years ago as the number one pick in the draft, and they're still going back for one. They may have the worst record in the NBA right now.
Yeah, don't reward that.
I think I didn't buy into it as much when I was hoping the Knicks would be bad and like they would get the top pick, but I think you're right. Just flatten the odds. It's just some of the teams are like, it's ridiculous for teams to like tank at the end of the season or like fight to not win.
I think it's also like the teams that are in the middle, it's almost impossible for them to get better because you end up with a crappy draft pick and you don't get in the playoffs. So it's like, I really think you just flatten it and make it the top 16 teams. So that way you completely avoid tanking because even you get some playoff teams in there.
I would do top 14. I think you can make the play. I think I don't agree with putting a playoff team in there, but you've won me over. I'd flatten the odds. I see no issue with doing that, and that like just end tanking altogether.
Yeah, especially with the play-in tournament. If you have the top, like if you give it to every non-playoff team and you have the play-in tournament, like that covers both ends of the tanking spectrum.
Right, exactly. So if you win the play-in game, you're in the playoff. You lose, you're in the lottery.
Right.
That's fine. That's totally fine. Anyway, so the Knicks, are they a top 7 team in the NBA? Let's go through it right now. Where are you going to rank them? Milwaukee, they're better than the Knicks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Celtics, better?
Yep.
Philly, better?
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland, are they better than the Knicks?
That's debatable.
Okay, so let's say three locks here. Cleveland, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you're not going to say Brooklyn's better than the Knicks?
I'm not, and nobody else for the East.
No one else, okay. Then we go to the Nuggets. The Nuggets better than the Knicks?
Even though the Knicks are 2-0, I'm going to say probably, yeah.
Okay, that's 4 teams, yes, and 1 maybe. Memphis. When's Ja coming back?
Tomorrow.
Okay. Good for your fantasy team, right?
I'm so mad. I won the first round of the playoffs, and then this week is just a nightmare so far.
Okay, so you're not gonna matter. Memphis with Ja better than the Knicks?
Yeah, I'd say right now, yeah.
Okay. Sacramento?
Yeah.
You think I know they beat the Knicks recently. I'm putting them in the maybe category. I think Cleveland's better than Sacramento. I am not a Sacramento believer.
Okay, that's fair.
Phoenix?
Yeah.
With Durant better. That's it.
That's it. So
Okay,
like
so
between
6 teams.
7 and 9.
Yeah, 6 teams definitely better. 2 maybes. Knicks are rising.
So Rob writes, real quick, what's going on with Grimes? I feel like he's just a body out there, and he's been so inconsistent with his shot.
What did he shoot? Like 1 shot last night?
Yeah, he's shot like less than 5 for multiple games.
I think
He
he's
had that
having a
one
hard-
game where he was like super. What was it, Denver? Where he was like
The game against the Nets. He
the
was
Nets.
awesome.
Yeah. But that's the exception to the rule.
I mean, partly guys may have to look for him more. I think he's been deferring a little bit. Guys, by the way, last night there were some plays like late, maybe in the fourth quarter. Sometimes guys defer too much on this team. There was a play where it was in the fourth quarter. Randall made a nice pass to Josh Hart, and for every reason, Josh Hart didn't want to go up. And Josh Hart generally does go up with the ball. He didn't want. He passed it back to Randall, and kind of like there were like 3 seconds to go on the shot clock, so Randall had to chuck it up. And I was like, Randall missed the shot there, but if Hart just like took the shot, we'd be better off.
Yeah. I just feel like the distribution of shots needs to be a little. You have 2 starters that combined take like 6 shots a game. You need a little bit more.
Grimes needs to get a little more involved in the offense.
Because even when you had like those 4 games that Harden, Irving, and Durant played, you'd still have Claxton taking a few shots. You'd have Bruce Brown taking a few shots. Like you need to like at least make the team think that the other guys out there are a threat.
I mean, Grimes can hit threes. He's been like was in a bit of a slump, but like, and his shot always looks pretty. I don't know. Maybe this is the most games he's ever played. He got injured partly through last year, so like maybe a bit of like the sophomore wall. As much as we said RJ's an X factor, I think Grimes is an X factor also. I also love when Grimes drives to the basket.
Yeah.
Though I feel like even when he's driving to the basket lately, he's trying to make a pass as opposed to go like put it in the basket.
Let's see. Rob went back to the play-in. He said he feels like we'd get teams throwing the play-in game. If a 10 seed matches up with a 1, they might see it more valuable to take a chance in a lottery. My counter argument to that is the players would never do that. Tanking is by the teams. You're not going to have players saying we want to lose this game and not make the playoffs so you can draft somebody to take my job. So
can you imagine like the Hawks are like, we're just gonna sit Trey. I mean, I know it's the play-in, but Trey just needs he needs some rest.
They get fined like $5 million.
I feel like it would be hard to sit anyone for a play-in game, and then the guys are just gonna play.
And Jamie said, what's going on with Robinson? Kind of want him traded. Hartenstein having way better numbers and makes the team move better.
Hartenstein has been really good lately, and Mitch has been a little bit off. But how about having them both out there
at the same time?
Do you think either one of them could play like 35, 38 minutes a night effectively?
Maybe. At least 30, I would think. So Mitch said he posted. I think this was while we were away. Mitch posted that he's just doing cardio and he's sick of it and blah, blah, blah. And then he came back the next day and he kind of explained himself, saying he's going through a lot. He had some family stuff and he's got a kid on the way. And I don't know why people have kids when they're like 20-something and in the NBA. Like, wait till you're 30. I don't know.
So you're giving life planning tips?
I feel like it's insane to me. You have so much going on. Like, what's the rush? I don't know.
Maybe
I'm thinking myself at 23. Like, it would have been absolutely insane to have a kid. But,
were you beyond rich at age 23?
Well, you can have a kid.
Mitch is 25. Were you beyond rich? Because he's beyond rich. As far as we can comprehend, he's beyond rich.
I don't know.
So he can afford. Like, first of all, I guess Mitch is. I don't know much about Mitch. I guess he's married or maybe not married. Who knows? But he has like I'm sure like between the mom and like he can pay for like childcare.
Yeah, wouldn't you want to like see the kid? I don't know.
I don't know. They can see them in the office. A lot of players have kids. What do you like? Basketball players shouldn't have kids.
Yeah, I'm just saying, wait a little. Like, what's the rush? Have kids. I don't care. I don't know. I think it's crazy to have kids before you're like 25, like 30.
What do you? And you're in a wait until how old to have kids, Jay?
I'm not having kids, but like, I would never ever have had one before 30. Like,
No, to like on the one hand, yeah. So like it seems like, well, to a certain extent, like one of the reasons you don't have one before you're 30, like I had my first kid at 30, is you're like, well, I mean, obviously you have to meet someone and spend some time with them, and then like want to have kid with that person, but also like financially, you also want to be in maybe the right place. I'd say an NBA player's in the right place earlier financially than we are.
I'm just thinking of my mindset. I was a complete fuck up in my 20s. Like, I should not have been anywhere near a baby in my 20s.
Yeah, okay, fair. I guess in the sense of like whatever. I'm sure also a lot of like I think Jay, maybe for our show, we should have every week a weekly segment where Jay gives family planning tips to NBA players.
Anyway, so yeah, I know I don't want him traded. I think, but I do think getting him a little more involved in the offense would make him happier, and it would also help with other teams being, like Mitch isn't on their scouting report on offense. So
I think he is to a certain extent. Look out for the lob.
That's it, and then they move on.
Yeah, well, that's
it's
like yeah.
like one line. Like,
okay.
by the way, they might lob to him twice a game.
Yes, the Knicks should. First of all, that will just make the Knicks offense look better because you're lobbing to him. The teams have to worry about that. Also, what was it, like a week or so, or 2 weeks ago, where Mitch took, I don't know, forget who he took off the dribble, but just drove all the way to the basket and dunked it. Can Mitch do that every once in a while? Can he work on that a little bit?
Yeah, that was nice. Pick and roll. Lots of pick. Like, I never see it. Like, he does the fake pick and roll where he doesn't really like make contact with the screen, and they don't really pass to him. So it's kind of just like, it's like a fake pick and roll.
You know, everyone like sometimes they'll start the play by or reset the play by giving the ball to the center at the top of the key, and Mitch will take the ball and just hand it off to like another player.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed a lot of times Mitch is barely covered there. How about when Mitch gets the ball at the top of the key and he's not being covered, he just drives to the basket and dunks? That would shake up the offense.
That would.
That would be pretty awesome. The team be like, shit, this dude can dribble? Oh, God. Maybe that's Tibbs is like, Mitch, I told you, we're only going to do that in the playoffs.
Jamie says, let's go Mets.
Yes. Knickerbocker Rocker writes, is there any other way to beat this healthy Knicks team aside from a lucky night of shooting threes? In a Game 7 series, Tibbs will have answers, make adjustments for all the strategies aside from the lucky barrage of fluke threes like we saw last night. Doubt any team's double down.
They're going to be tough. They're going to be a really tough team, and I think they might surprise some people.
Yeah, I would say every game in the Knicks will have in the playoffs will be a hard fought game, and maybe once in the whole series you'll have some team just go off. It's not going to happen multiple nights.
Andrew said Grimes averages 7.6 shots a game. It feels like way less, doesn't it?
It does feel like, and I feel like he's been shooting a lot, maybe less lately. N9OG4 on Instagram writes, does Tibbs' lack of adjustments worry you? Last night, he didn't put Mitch back in on the fourth quarter. He struggles with his in-game adjustments, timeouts, usages, and which lineups to close with. He also writes, also been listening to your podcast since the very beginning. You make me laugh, and it's great we finally can enjoy a successful season.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow. Long-time listener.
Awesome.
So, yeah, this perfectly sums up just the way fans look at the game. We had back-to-back questions. One said, I have no doubt Tibbs will make the proper adjustments. And the next question says Tibbs definitely won't make the adjustments. So Hart was playing really good. That's why Mitch sat. It wasn't anything against Mitch. Like, Hart was just playing really well.
But the Denver game, Tibbs put Mitch back late in the game, and it actually was the benefit. And Mitch got like the dunk to kind of seal the game.
Yeah,
the Brunson alley-oop, which was kind of awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be matchup based. If Towns was in there, Mitch would have been in there.
It's also really, I mean, I know it's easy to second guess a lot of the moves, but like in the moment, it's not an easy thing to adjust.
I'm glad that Tibbs seems to be going with the hot hand lately. Like, he played IQ over RJ. He played iHeart over Mitch. Like, I feel like beginning of the season, it was just like, this is my closing lineup, and that's it.
I think in the Denver game, he played RJ over IQ. So he's like varying it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I also like it took a little while. I think you have to figure out what works for a team. I kind of like what he's doing now, where he pulls RJ halfway through the first quarter, brings RJ back with the second unit.
Mm-hmm.
You give IQ a lot of time with the first unit also. Like the variations and how I generally like what he's doing. The only complaint people still will make are about how Obi's minutes, and I don't really know what you do about Obi's minutes.
There's not much you could do. I mean, he's not as good as Randall, and his defense isn't there, so he's really well. Also, now that they got Hart, he's not going to play the backup 3, and he's not big enough to play the backup 5. So, what are you going to do?
I don't think there are many coaches in the NBA that would play Randall and Obi together unless they were just like, screw it.
Obi's going to have to get a lot better on defense in the offseason if he wants to see any minute. If he gets a lot better on defense, maybe you can play him at the 3 or 5 in short spurts. But if not, he's just going to, play when Randall doesn't.
I will go on the records now and saying I will be shocked if Obi's on the team next year.
I won't be shocked, but I will be surprised. I feel like, I said it last episode. I do think RJ, Obi, and Fournier are going to get traded for somebody.
I mean, like, if they do a star trade, there's a decent chance Fournier and Rose will be part of it for cap filler. But there's a very good chance RJ or Obi would be involved in it. Either way, though, even if that star trade doesn't happen, I bet they move on from Obi. I bet they just say, like, hey, we're holding him back because we feel a little bad about this.
Mm-hmm.
And we also don't like his fit on the team.
I think you could probably find somebody who fits him better. They need a much better 3-point shooter.
They need a better 3-point shooter, probably a better defense.
Mm-hmm.
They need a guy that the coach is more comfortable sitting Randall a little bit longer in games because of what he gives. Los Dude writes, did you go to the Nuggets game the other night? Apologies, but I can't remember if it was Marc or Jay saying he was going. I live in Northern Colorado area about a decade now, and my first game was Knicks and Nuggets. Unfortunately, it was the year Knicks got their roster. Stat RJ Shumpert got dealt, and Melo opted out for the year. But to watch KP versus Jokic in 2018 made up for it. Plus, Beasley was playing great. Also seeing the Lakers' last pre-COVID game. Anyway, when it comes to football, are you a Jets or Giants fan? But that question also just took a totally different turn at the end.
I was talking about going. I ended up not going. And I grew up a Giants fan, but I've pretty much stopped watching football.
I'm a Jet fan. I am not excited for the Jets to get Aaron Rodgers, which is still not certain to happen. But I know as a lifelong Jet fan that it'll work out poorly because they will not get the Aaron Rodgers we want. They will get the Aaron Rodgers right before his career ends. Aaron Rodgers.
And Jamie says, do you guys feel like New York sports are back, or who do you have winning the next championship in New York?
That's a good question. So we have the Rangers in hockey are playing pretty well. Islanders aren't bad. Obviously the Knicks. I guess you count Brooklyn as a New York team. Are we counting Buffalo, the Bills, as a New York team?
They're the only football team that actually plays in New York.
So no, we're not counting them. The Mets, the Yankees, so if you had to predict who would be the next New York team to win a title, not necessarily next year, but just the next one in general, who do you got, Jay?
I mean, safe bet's always the Yankees, right?
I mean, I guess if you did the DraftKings odds, I bet they would get the best odds.
Yeah.
The Mets have had some major injuries. Well, they have one major injury to start the year with Edwin Diaz. Mets are on the rise
You say that every single year.
every year. This is when we have the Mets won 101 games last year, Jay. They had a very good team. I am going to.
I have to listen to you talk about the Mets incessantly from like March through July, and then it gets super, super quiet in August, and then you bitch in September and October. Like every year, it's the same shit.
Get used to it, Jay. The Knicks have been so good that so usually the Knicks are just garbage by now. So I'm just like I'm getting more and more focused on the Mets. Knicks are so much fun. I've barely been following that Mets spring training, except for the injuries. I am all in as when the season starts. But
Rob said he feels like the Mets, Knicks, and Jets are the same team, just different sports. You could add add the Islanders into that.
I mean, that's why I root for all of them, except for the Islanders. I root for the Rangers. I don't know. Maybe the Rangers will be the one that won. Like Rangers will win it, and we'll be like, God, I wish we had their owner for basketball.
When I followed hockey, I was Islanders fan.
I guess probably the Yankees will win it all, just because. Will I ever, Jay? Will I ever have one of my teams win the title?
Yes, it'll probably be the Rangers, though.
It's really the least helpful.
I know, the one you care the least about. But
I care. Will the Mets, Jets, or Knicks win the title again in my lifetime?
I think the Knicks would before the Mets and Jets.
Okay, it's a Knicks podcast. We're going with that.
All right, so we are pretty much out of time. Was that the question?
Yeah, that was all the questions. Anything else? Anything else you want to touch briefly on all NBA?
That is true, Rob. We did get to see 2 Giants titles.
Yay!
I got to see 3 or 4, 3 or 4.
3.
3.
They won the two against New England. The 2 more recent ones than '86. Am I missing one? Oh,
didn't they beat the Redskins?
90. Jeff Hostetler.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. 4.
Wonderful. You can't even count how many titles you win. As the Jets, like my best memories of recent memories, the last 20 years, are Mark Sanchez taking into 2 conference final games, not even the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I remember the Giants also played Baltimore and got absolutely stomped. But
I remember someone pointed out, they're like, the Giants played Baltimore in the Super Bowl and lost, and we don't even talk about that. You're talking about going to the conference finals?
I know it.
The conference, like the conference championship, whatever, like the AFC championship. I'm like, yeah, that's how sad we are. We're such a sad franchise.
I feel like the every year I have less and less time, so I have to keep cutting out sports. So I'm really just down to basketball at this point.
Okay, mark it. In the next 3 years, the Knicks will, at the very least, get to the conference finals.
Maybe in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
I really want the Knicks. I want to know when the Knicks playoff tickets are going on sale, and like, I think I'm just going to spend way too much money to go to these games. I got to go to one of these games.
They should. I think they go on sale like the day after the
season ends.
The season ends because they have to know all the matchups and then they have to make the schedule. So,
well, they don't have the because they have the play-in tournament first. So like,
oh right,
are you gonna...
So it might be like another 3 weeks.
I believe like April. I was looking like April 15th. I think is when the playoffs, like after the conference. After that makes sense, or maybe that's when the play-in tournament starts. It's a long playoffs.
It is. Plus, that first round they stretch out to ridiculous proportions. Like the later rounds is every other day. Like, but the first
they try
round,
to get as much in as possible. Because they don't want this. Like, they don't want the finals to be in August.
But it used to be every other day for all 4 rounds.
I'd get rid of I'd make it every day, all the rounds.
Every day.
Every day. The only time you get rest, the only time you get a day off is when you move cities.
A 7. Oh, you're saying like. I thought you were saying like if it's a 7-game series, you play 7 days in a row.
No. I mean, like I guess I would like what is it 2-3-2 or however they do it.
No, I hate 2-3-2.
Oh, is it 2-3-1-1? Is that how they're doing it? They do
yeah, because 2-3-2 sucks.
Yeah, I would do 2-3-2. I would go back to 2-3-2.
Oh,
Give
no.
the home team a real
Absolutely not.
advantage.
Nope.
I guess you have like the.
How does
whatever.
that give the home team advantage? You're down 3-2.
You get the last 2 games at home.
Yeah, but you're down. You're in an elimination game in Game 6. It's terrible.
Okay, I would do 2-3-2, and there's 2 days off in the series. That's it. The series goes 9 days.
I hate your idea.
I love it because I just play the games. Okay,
Anyway.
F it. Screw it. I got it. The play double headers.
They used to, you know.
Did they used to, I guess I think I knew that, but like that's been gone for like 30
last week.
years.
Clyde was talking about how he had to play like 2 games in one day. It's just insane.
Holy shit. Can you imagine a Tibbs coach team? I know you guys all played 50 minutes in this overtime, but same starting lineup.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will be back next week, and let's go Knicks. Oh, predictions for the next week.
Oh, okay. But Knicks got 9 games to go. It's kind of crazy, Jay.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week, looks like the Knicks will play. I assume we'll record on Tuesday. Knicks will have played Miami, Orlando, and Houston. Miami, I think coming off this game against Minnesota, they're going to beat.
They're going to be mad.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
They're gonna be ready to like wreck it. And Miami's always a tough matchup, but the Knicks are going to win that game.
Yep.
Orlando, who's actually a pretty good team as of late.
They are. Yeah.
Knicks are winning that, right?
They are.
Houston is a game where the Knicks might look past that game.
That's a
Houston's
trap game. That's a trap
game, but a pile of garbage. By the way, there was I think Jalen Green had 40 points last night, or not last, a couple nights ago, and people were bragging about it, and they're like, yeah, they lost the game. And I know like they also like they lost by a fair amount of points.
They're winning that.
It's not like 57 in a close game against Minnesota.
3-0.
3-0. If they're going to lose any of the games, I am most concerned about the Orlando game.
Yeah, that's fair. All right.
Okay, Knicks are winning the title. Yeah, title.
Bye, love. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. It's all over. Goodbye. It's time to go. This is the end. Say goodbye.